Yo, 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 what is up, party people? Welcome to another episode of Thrive and Dive, thriving in life as we dive into deeper conversations. And I'm joined here today by a very special friend, the one and only Ryan Hennessy.
I don't know if I'm the only one, but
the only one I know.
Ryan, yeah, that's all that matters.
Yeah, there you go. And I also call him Ryan the Hen for short. That was a nickname that me and shout out to Juan Perez gave him many years ago on the tennis team that we played for together at the Masters Academy. And with that being said, actually, Ryan, I just want to give a little context to our Thrive and Divers, how we know each other. So I've known of your family for a good while. Your family is like a staple family of Vero Beach. Like everybody, for the most part, well, not everybody, but most people who run in Christian circles or in ministry circles know of or know the Hennessys. So don't let that get to your head, but you're famous here in Vero Beach. Yeah. So I've known his family for a good while. Actually, the first Hennessy I knew was Richie. Shout out to Richie Hennessy. I didn't know him super well, but we did have some interactions in a Christian organization called Saints, which was a homeschool PE ministry. Were you ever a part of Saints, Ryan?
I would visit here and there.
Here and there.
Yeah.
But that's where I met Richie. If I'm being honest, we weren't the bestest of friends at that Saints thing. So if Richie, if you're seeing this, I forgive you. Hopefully forgive me. And I think we had some clashes because we were both very competitive people, and we always wanted to win. So so that's what I first knew Ryan's older brother, Richie. And then I knew his older sisters, Kiara and Karina. Shout out to Kiara and Karina. I ran cross country with Karina for a couple years. Good times. Don't really miss cross country, to be honest. But and then, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, I played tennis with the Ryan Hennessy back when he was in 6th grade. And I believe I was a junior in high school. So a pretty big age gap. But regardless, we played on the same team. Do you remember those times, Ryan?
Yeah, that was my favorite tennis year, and it was the only tennis year I had.
Oh, you didn't play after that year?
I didn't play after.
No way.
Yeah,
Gosh.
I just couldn't top it. No, I think baseball was the next year, and I played. Oh, wait, no, I don't know what I did. Oh, I think I sailed that next year.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. Sailing.
Yeah,
gotcha. So either the year was so great that you're like, I don't want to try to top that year, or it was just so bad you didn't want to play again. I hope it was.
I don't think I don't know if the same coaches coached the next year as well.
Okay. Do we have Coach Paco? Do you remember Coach Paco?
Paco.
Yeah, that was his last year. I do remember that.
Yeah.
So maybe that was the reason. Shout out to Coach Paco. He was a great guy. Loved him.
Shout out.
Yeah. Hopefully you're doing well. So, yeah. Anything you want to add though, Ryan, to our friendship? Is there some gaps I may be missing of how we met way back and then maybe even currently?
Yeah. So we definitely met when probably during the tennis and and then throughout the years definitely enjoyed insight from James and Jason. James, not Jason.
Jason's my brother.
I'm put on the spot here. Not used to all the lights and the yeah.
You're doing great.
I'm doing really, really good. No, I'm just kidding. I've definitely enjoyed just talking with you throughout the years and catching up, and we're not so much always in the same circles.
Right.
Our family has a church in Fort Pierce, like northern Fort Pierce, and
shout out to Horizon Church.
And so we just whenever we pass by, we catch up, and just loved the wisdom and all the hard-earned studying and wisdom that I could extrapolate from.
Extrapolate.
It was extra.
Wow. Well, thank you, Ryan. Well, he said it so well. Yeah, it's cool how we don't run in the same circles, but we still run the same big circle of, we're both followers of Christ. We both desire to make him known. And it's just really cool how the Lord is working in so many areas and not just one central location. Thrive and Divers, I work at a church called Pathway Church. Shout out to Pathway Church. And there's just so many cool ministries and churches happening in Indian River County. So I saw this as an opportunity to, hey, let me partner with Ryan on Thrive and Dive and hear some of his wisdom, his church experience, his ministerial experience, and maybe you guys can glean from it, whether you're into ministry or not. Hopefully you can find some valuable tools and lessons. So yeah, Ryan, I'm always encouraged whenever I do see you. Like you said, our circles don't necessarily cross as often, but you're usually when I see you, you're at the house. So shout out to David Adams and Jordan Smith, my roommates. Always having some people over, and Ryan is usually part of that friend group that comes over that we're both a part of. And every time I get an opportunity just to chat a little bit with Ryan, it's always a blessing to interact with you. It's a refreshment. Whenever I see someone who's like into ministry minded, spiritually mature from what I can see. Obviously, I don't see your day to day, Ryan, but from what the parts that I can't see, from the fruits I can see, you seem just like a guy. That's a guy I want to talk to, right? That's a guy that has it together. I'm sure we all know we're not perfect, but you're doing something right. Is what I'm getting at, Ryan. Mm-hmm. So I would love for our Thrive and Divers just to hear your story a little bit. Because our goal in this podcast is to thrive in life as we dive into deeper conversations. And I want to bring people on that can help you guys thrive in life in whatever direction you're going in, whether it's in ministry, in the marketplace, whatever, and all the above. So super thankful, Ryan, that you're here today. So with that being said, Ryan, I'd love just for you to share maybe an abridged version of your testimony, kind of how the Lord has been working in your life. It's up to you where you want to start that testimony, if you want to start from the womb, or if you want to start when you were a teenager or more recently. That's up to you. But I'd love to hear how you walked with the Lord, and then how he has got you to the point that you are at now. And then if you want to end off that testimony by sharing what you are currently doing now and what's kind of the next steps. So where you want to start, it's up to you.
Yeah. To start from when I was, I guess, 10, 11. So actually, to rewind, my parents raised us in a solid Christian home, and but the way that they did it was more like wasn't so controlling in the sense of like we're gonna really make sure that they read their Bibles and stuff like that. But I remember like during homeschool, like my mom would like read the Word in the morning with us, and it was always a sweet time. But they were more like I guess standoffish, if that's the right term. They were like if they're gonna have a relationship with the Lord, they're gonna seek it out for themselves, and that really blessed my relationship with the Lord. And I had my own desire to seek the Lord, and I think I started reading the Word when I was 10 on my own, and that was just such a sweet time. And then when I was 11, I kept going with that. When I was 11, I did like a discipleship ministry, and then they encouraged us to do that more. And then when I went to another discipleship ministry in Virginia, the one before was a sailing ministry. Then this one was a ministry that was at a youth camp. It was all about just making your relationship with the Lord your own. And and so I'd say those were big moments where I was taken from the normal life and given that opportunity to just focus on the Lord and read His Word. And I kept with that throughout high school. I would say I struggled with sin, as most people do.
Join the club.
Yeah, all right. And the way that I dealt with that sin was very I would just let it weigh on me with shame. I was definitely more on that side of the spectrum. There's plenty of wrong ways to deal with sin, but I would confess it, and I'd still feel horrible about it, and really I think I let that I would go through seasons of sin, and in giving into that sin, and then I'd break out of it and like focus on the Lord. And not to say my whole high school was like a total mess. Like I would get out of it, feel great, and then I'd fall, and then you just forget, and you don't take heed lest you don't take heed to the verse that I'm trying to say is, beware him who thinks he stands lest he fall.
Right.
And so
That's good.
you forget that you're desperate. But anyways, at the end of high school, I went to a Bible college. I really, really struggled that summer with sin and shame. And but when I got to that Bible Institute, it was just a 10-month program. Shout out to CBI.
Woo.
In California, Yucca Valley. And when I got there, I think the first thing that the Lord spoke to me, like, I needed to get this through to you, that I had to ask the question, is my sin or my shame greater than the accomplishment done on the cross? And it's like, wait, how prideful for me to think that. And yeah, how prideful for me to hold on to shame or hold on to sin if Jesus has already covered it. Like, do I really believe that? And so that's the question I had to answer, and that's what the Lord spoke to me. And so I'd say that was really a big moment, and it's kind of crazy because even with all that zeal for the Lord throughout, middle school and high school, the Lord had to teach me something so late. Like that simplest teaching in church, like just believe that. And I'd say that was a moment of victory. Like that's when I like, oh snap, like I have victory in Christ, and I could live like it,
Wow.
And yeah, so I'd say that's probably the biggest part of my testimony.
Wow. That's awesome, man, because that's so true. Ryan, that so many people can get so caught up in this cycle where, I don't know if you ever struggled with assurance per se, in terms of, did you ever feel like you lost your salvation when you're in those seasons of shame, or was it just, you just felt shame?
I wouldn't say, I don't know.
Yeah,
I definitely felt like I was trampling the Son of God under my feet. I definitely felt like I'm counting. Yeah, I think I turned to like the hardest verses, and they didn't really like help me in that time in a way, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, I felt like Jesus was like weeping over my sin, which is I don't know.
So maybe not a sense where you felt like you lost your salvation, which is another whole conversation starter for another time, but maybe you just felt like, man, you're really letting him down so much, and he's really disappointed. You have a relationship with him. It's like a father who's constantly disappointed in their son. You feel like you might be disappointing him so much, and that shame. And when but in reality, yes, God is disappointed when we fall into sin. That's not his plan for us. But for us to wallow in our shame and self-pity, and like you said so beautifully, right? As you learned from that camp, or not the camp, the Bible college, that, man, how dare we ever think that our sin's so great that God, Jesus' death on the cross could not cover that. Like, that is a kind of a prideful thing, saying I messed up so bad that the blood of Christ can't wash over that. Ooh, all right, we need to check ourselves before we wreck ourselves type of situation. And unfortunately, I think a lot of us do wallow, is the word I like to use, in shame, right? And it really breaks down our relationship with the Lord. And the verse I love to turn to, Ryan, I mean, it's a verse that you clung to as well, or continue to cling to, is Romans 8:1, where it says that there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Yes, we do fall in sin, and we do need to feel sorrowful for our sin. If you don't feel sorrowful for your sin, and you're just calloused, and you're like, the grace of God is sufficient, so usually there's two extremes, right, Ryan? You got one who's never sorrowful, and they're like, the grace of God can cover it, so I'm good. And there's the other side, which kind of you're dealing with, is that I'm so shameful, right? I feel so wrong for my sin, right? And both are not places we want to be, right? To those who don't feel calloused and are abusing God's grace, we need to be like, hey, listen up. You got to realize that your sin is damaging your relationship with the Lord, and it's damaging other people, right? There's a ripple effect when you sin. It's not just affecting you, it's affecting other people. So that's the message that this guy needs to hear. Your situation, you're like, you understand the damage of sin, right? But you just can't get past it per se. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe you can comment on it. But for that person, it's more like, no. The grace of God is sufficient, right? You don't have to worry about Christ not loving you any less type thing. Yes, we want to pull you out of the sin, right? That's sanctification. We don't want someone to stay in their sinful ways. But to hear that assurance that, wow, God still loves me despite my sin, and he's still faithful, right? You think of the prodigal son, right? The father who represent God in that story was waiting for his son to return, right? Yeah. And when he saw him, what did he do?
Ran to him,
right? Which was not customary for grown men to do in Hebraic culture, right? He girded up the loins of his tunic, right? And showed his legs, and he ran, which is just crazy to think about. Yeah, I can take 100 steps away from Christ. All it takes is one step to get back to him type thing. So depends who you are. You got to hear the harder version or the softer version. Does that make sense, Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's awesome that you share that. Don't sit in your shame, guys. You know, God's grace is sufficient.
Yeah. What I love about that story is when the son says to the father, first thing he says to him, Lord, I'm unworthy to be called, or
we're unworthy to be called your son. Make me one of your servants.
Yeah. That's like the main point. Yeah. I'm unworthy to be called your son. And then the father doesn't even acknowledge it.
Right. He's like,
just let's kill the fatted calf.
Exactly.
Let's throw a party for my son that was once dead is alive because he's here, you know.
Yeah.
So come to me, you know, with this. And yeah.
That's awesome, Ryan. Super cool. Great lesson. Hopefully you guys can glean from that and take from that. So now, since Bible college, because that was a couple years ago, right? Or was that recent?
Yeah. That was more than 2 years ago.
Cool. So what have you been doing since Bible college up to this date?
A lot of different stuff. I've definitely so when I got back like around October. I won't put timestamps on everything. That's gonna be too confusing. Yeah. But
I feel that.
When I got back, I got really busy with ministry, and I'm just like I don't really know what to do. I know I'm supposed to come back home because there's a reason why I was, you know, raised here. And that's how I took it. And so I came back and got involved with a bunch of different ministries. I started an internship down south with in Palm City at the Calvary Chapel down there, and then I was doing that sailing program called Hire. I was doing another thing called First Priority at the school, and I think with all that, I started Chick-fil-A back up.
Oh yeah,
and then
Lord's Chicken.
Yeah, and then after like January of that year, I think or the next year, I guess that's why time's so confusing. Yeah. But I quit Chick-fil-A. Then the Lord just started pruning, what was what He wanted for me, and then kind of gave me the idea that, no, you should put less on your plate, you know, and pursue me with the one thing that I'm calling you to. And so really these last, I'd say a year and a half was me figuring out what I was supposed to be doing at that time. You know, figuring out what's wise. And so I started working at our family's friends have a software company for mission organizations. So I'm like, that sounds pretty cool. So I started working there. Slowly been learning that, and now I've got a full-time job there.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, and during all that time, I was like thinking that the Lord's calling me to missions, and right now I kind of feel like the Lord is has me in a preparation period would be a good way to put it.
That's cool.
And besides all that, I've wanted to just go full throttle with music with all the time left in the day. So I'm looking to I'm just wanting to record more and just see where that brings me, you know.
That's
So
that's so awesome, Ryan. It sounds like, man, after that Bible college, you hit the ground running. You had your hands in so many different things, which is, you know, part of that season of life where it's like, all right, I'm going to try out these different opportunities. And then it came to the point where like, okay, I can't do it all, right? I got to do some pruning, like you said, and maybe be more directionally focused on a couple things instead of having my hands on so many different things. So now you're full time with this organization, which is awesome. I did not know that. Super cool. And you feel like you're in a preparatory season. So I'm curious, do you have any ideas of what this preparation is gearing towards, or are you just kind of going to hold off on that and wait till the Lord kind of shows more direction?
Yeah. So I think there's a level of direction that we need to wait on for like big life decisions. And so I guess, for instance, like Paul and Barnabas, they were separated they received all the Christians received the Great Commission to go. And they were in Antioch when they received that call.
I think so. I think you're right.
So.
Because that was the hub of the early church in the book of Acts. Antioch.
Yeah. And then, and the Lord even separated them, you know, for the ministry. It separated them to that specific ministry. And then the Lord sent them out. But so in that way, like the Lord does specifically call people out, to do specific things, you know, and, I've had peace with that because I also had done like it was actually one class called, I'm going down a rabbit trail, but it was a class called The Purpose of the Church, and it was all about evangelism, and I still hold to like that, like the purpose of the church is like the reason why he has us here still is because there's people that need to hear about the gospel, or there's people that need to hear the gospel. But there's just ways that's like a really hard thing that needs to be processed, you know, about missions and the great need to go to those countries that got less than 2% population Christian, just places that they're just so ripe for people to preach the gospel there, you know. And so
the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few areas.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, along with those things that I mentioned, like the last 2 years has definitely been a time of processing that and like and saying it's out of like my hands, and waiting on the Lord and waiting for his direction. And so that's definitely given me peace. But I would also say that time of like the last 2 years of being home after Bible Institute, that was a time where I that time wasn't wasted is what I'm saying.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Even though it felt like, I don't know, there's a no here, a no there, a no there. Like, that was the Lord directing me, but the moments that I spent in those ministries, that wasn't wasted.
Absolutely.
You know? And so I have to like remind myself that, because it's like everyone like kind of saying the same thing, like you're burning out, man. You know, you're and it's true. Like it wasn't a sustainable. This wasn't going to be a sustainable thing for the rest of my life, and they were right. But for me to remind myself that the Lord was teaching me something, and the Lord was still using me in those places is so important, because I was delighting in the Lord. And, you know, when you delight in the Lord, he'll give you the desires of your heart. Amen. And he'll lead you. And so do I trust that? And really I'm saying all of this, like I've known it the whole time, but it's crazy because I didn't come to that conclusion until like recently, that I guess the question, like, do I trust, you know, because the whole time this past 2 years really has been, I'm unsure. Like, I don't know if I made the wrong decision. I don't know if I'm wrong for going home. I don't know if I'm wrong for not leaving and doing this or doing that or not staying in California or not to. But yeah, that I hadn't received that word from the Lord till like 2 years later. That like, do you trust me? You know, do you trust me with where I have you? You know,
Yeah.
or do you think you've fallen out of the will of the Lord? You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Ryan. Well, that takes us to kind of the question we wanted to talk about Thriving Divers. I wanted you guys to hear his testimony of how the Lord has been working into his life from a young age to now. And now that kind of leads to the main topic, if you will. And Ryan, you already touched on it a little bit, referencing the apostles in the book of Acts, but it's the topic of direction. You know, sometimes we can get so caught up on where is the Lord directing me? And we constantly, I'm speaking for myself. I'm not putting this on you guys that this is how you operate. But sometimes for me, even when I was in college and Bible college, just like Ryan was, I'm thinking, all right, what is that destination the Lord is going to get me to? I'm just thinking destination. There's a direction that he's gonna, and it's gonna be clear, and I'm gonna be in the Spirit, and I'm gonna be so effective, blah, 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 right? And then it kind of comes to the point where you realize it's not about the direction. It's about how faithful and obedient are you being in the here and now. And the direction, you might never know where the direction is. I don't think Paul and Barnabas always knew what the direction was. I mean, look at the three missionary journeys in the book of Acts. It's like they're all over the place. It's like they were going everywhere in the known world at that time, right? Did they know they were going to go in all those places and plant all those churches? I don't know. The Bible doesn't necessarily say so. But as you shared, Ryan, before we went on air, is that when it comes to direction, sometimes how the Lord works is he doesn't give us a clear yes. He just gives us clear no's. And is that kind of what you were sharing at the beginning before we went on air? And if so, can you explain kind of what that means?
Yeah. So if you do a study on where the Lord, how the Spirit leads and acts, or how the Lord uses the gift of prophecy in the New Testament and in the Old Testament, you'll see that a good majority of that of the content in there, I guess, is are warnings, or are like, don't go here, go there. I could at least speak for like the finite studying that I've done on it in Acts, where first of all, like the Holy Spirit sends out Paul and Barnabas.
Yep.
They were separated and they were sent out, but it doesn't say the Lord led the Spirit led them to the next city. It doesn't see that. It doesn't. It doesn't say that. It just says the Holy Spirit sends them out. And so, I mean, I believe that they relied on the last words of Jesus, that you shall be witnesses to me in Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, and to the ends of the earth.
Acts 1:8. Yep.
Yeah, and so, and then they're going for it, you know. And actually, when Paul wrote Romans, he was in, I forget if it was Macedonia or Achaia, but there's like 2 verses in Acts, or in one verse in Acts, he plans to go back to Jerusalem, and then he's in Achaia. He plans to go back to Jerusalem, and then after he sees Jerusalem, he must also see Rome, which is on the other side of that known world. So like he's moving. He's planning the next 3 years of his life or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so he's going for it, and again, like the places where you see like the Spirit leading him. I think the next place where it says that the Spirit or mentions like the Spirit's direction is in Acts 16. I don't have it referenced, but I'm pretty sure it's Acts 16. Where you say in disbelief.
Oh no! I mean, you fact check us on your own. I don't know references very well. I know a lot. I know that I can verify that the things he's saying is in the book of Acts.
You better verify.
I just don't know where in the book of Acts. Which I like to say that the references in the Bible were not inspired by God; they're put in by man. So if I say it's in the book of Acts, then I'm right on.
Yeah, you make sure we're
You can
not
find the
speaking lies, and then if we are.
Yeah, be a good Berean, right? The Bereans heard the words from Paul and studied the scriptures to make sure that they were accurate. Yeah. But anyway, keep going.
The Spirit. Paul's going through this town, and then he's wanting to preach the word to this town. The Spirit doesn't permit them to go there.
Yes. Yep.
And so the Spirit says no. And then they're like, okay, let's try and go to this town. And the Spirit doesn't permit them to go there either. It says in the at night, Paul received a vision. And normally you'd see at night that you'd receive a dream, like you were sleeping, but no, he received a vision. So he was awake, and it and then the Holy Spirit tells him that, or gives him like a vision of a Macedonian man saying, we need help with the work over here. And so I say that talk about the night because like Paul was distressed probably, like he was probably worried, he's going for it. He's literally moving. He's on the move, trying to find a place to speak the word. And I mean, I don't know about you, but it'd be pretty like you'd probably be worrying a little bit if you were hindered by the Spirit to go somewhere, and then the Lord directs them. Okay, the Lord leads them to the next spot. So I guess it's pretty clear just with like what we've already said, like what we're like saying, what I'm trying to say is like it's better to hear no from the Lord than to hear go. Because if you hear go, then you're not moving, but if you hear no, that implies that you're going for it, And okay, so how are we supposed to be living for the Lord right now? Jesus said it 5 times maybe in 4 of the Gospels and in the beginning of Acts that we're supposed to be making disciples, being witnesses of Jesus and preaching the gospel. So we know we have clear direction regardless.
It's good. Sorry, I'm just combing through the scriptures. Yeah, the man of Macedonia was in chapter 16. You're right on, Ryan. Look at you. But that's the one time. Again, not that everything in the book of Acts is prescriptive. There's a hermeneutics term just for you guys. This is a little extra, not necessarily the topic we're talking about, but things in the Bible are either descriptive or prescriptive. Things that are descriptive in the Bible are things that are just described and are not meant to happen to you per se. Take, for example, Moses in the burning bush. That's a descriptive event. More than likely, you're not going to get a burning bush calling from the Lord. If you do, let me know. I want to hear about that. But the principle behind God calling us is prescriptive, but the method of the burning bush is descriptive, right? So we got to apply that to the book of Acts as well, right? Because the majority of it is historical narrative. And when you read historical narrative, you've got to comb through what's prescriptive versus descriptive. Anyway, that's hermeneutics lesson 101.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the book of Acts, not everything that happens to Paul is going to happen to us per se, but it could. So, but what's clear, what helps distinguish things, Ryan, between prescriptive and descriptive is how frequently it happens in the book of Acts, right?
Yeah.
If something's just a one-time event, most likely it's not going to be prescriptive, right? This is where different denominations get different points of views. But if you see something happening multiple times in the book of Acts, then chances are that's prescriptive. That's the way God intended us to do it. So the way that Paul and Silas and Barnabas and Timothy and all these different missionaries just went after it, I think that's prescriptive for us as well, right? God has set them apart. We see that, as you mentioned, in the church of Antioch, and then they just went for it. Maybe the Spirit did measure out their steps completely, but I think there was this freedom where like, all right, I'm calling you out. Now you just go after it type thing, and I'll tell you when to stop. And then I'll tell you even where to go. Because the man of Macedonia, I guess what was an instance where God did directly tell them to go somewhere, and we're arguing that God majority tells us to stop.
Yeah.
So that kind of goes against our argument a little bit.
For sure.
But it's only one time, right? So he doesn't really speak in visions very often in that way to Paul.
Yeah.
Maybe he did have a man of Thessalonica in a vision. It's just not recorded in the Bible.
Yeah.
Sometimes we just got to read between the lines a little bit. But from what we can see, though, it's just like they just went. They went after it. They didn't wait for a specific blueprint and direction from the Lord. They just went, and then God would close doors. So for you and I, modern application, Ryan, right, is the Lord puts things on our hearts. And the Lord is directing us, not necessarily calling us out per se and whispering in our ear, Ryan, you're going to go work at WM Tech. Is that the name of the organization you're working for?
Yeah.
Yeah. He probably didn't do that per se, right? And he's not going to go to you like, Bella, if your name is Bella, you gotta go to Singapore, right? He might do that. What he wants you to do is, how about you? I've given you passions. I've given you giftings. I've given you availability. Do something with that. And if it's something I don't like you doing, I'm going to tell you, right?
Yeah.
I think there's this freedom. We sometimes see the will of God as like a tightrope. Like we got to really make sure we're on that tightrope and we're following that one path. When in reality, it's not. It's a 12-lane road, right? And you can go in any lane, and you're still in the will of God, and you're still following His direction, right? I don't know if that made any sense. Any comments on that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that was awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. I guess that a good way to the reason why this is like encouraging is because I kind of lost that thought. That's okay.
Oh.
Why is this encouraging? Why is this encouraging? Why is it encouraging that
that there's many options to be in the will of God versus just a single like go and do this type thing?
Yeah.
It's kind of, why is that encouraging, I guess?
Yeah.
I know it's encouraging for me that
know.
I don't have to like, I'm an overthinker and I think, man, am I in the will of God right now? Am I really doing what He has called me to do? I'm like, shoot, am I helping make disciples? Yes. Am I sharing the gospel? Yes. You're doing great, James. Just keep doing it until God says otherwise, right?
Yeah.
That's good. That's where I see as an encouragement when it comes to following the Lord's will for my life. Which can sometimes be a taboo topic that's like churchy and like people don't know what they're talking about. No, just be faithful. The Lord can give direct assignments. He does that. It's like a missional calling, but He gives a general calling of make disciples.
Yeah.
And how you do that is between you and the Lord.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
that's my two thoughts of why it's encouraging.
It is.
So, maybe it's not encouraging to you. In that case, oh nope.
Keep pressing the wrong one.
Yeah, I don't know my sound effects very well. This board is new.
It's color coded. You should know,
I know
by their
right?
colors.
Yeah, but yeah, it's like I feel like blue should be the want. But anyway, I can recolor them actually technically. But I did this one because apparently it's not encouraging to you. Apparently. Anyway, any final thoughts about this whole topic and altogether per se? We'll go and wrap up this episode. If not, no worries.
Yeah, I thought I really, really had something, but
you're gonna have a eureka moment. Oh,
I
still know.
That wasn't eureka.
No, that's not it. Where is it? There.
I don't
You have an
like
idea?
that one.
Does that stir up an idea?
Click the red one.
Red one? Is this like intro music? And here on Thrive and Dive,
Okay, now
we have Ryan, and he's coming with a great
Why is
thought.
this the red one?
I don't know. Get groovy. All right, enough of that.
No way.
If not, I'll go ahead and land the plane.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could do that.
All right.
Yeah.
Just cut me off mid landing if something comes to mind that you wanted to share before we cut it off.
Yeah, oh, there it is.
wait.
There it is.
Yeah.
I mean, forget it if you keep clicking more buttons. It's about how the Lord, how Lord's got you, like he speaks like as a father to to kids, like he's the, and he speaks really simply to his children, and he's not trying to trick you. And and so I just encourage you with that. Like when you read the word, when you get in the word, just take that in, that the Lord is directing you, and also that, like, if you delight in the Lord, he'll give you the desires of your heart.
That's good.
Do
you know the reference to that? Not to put you on the spot. That's what I say.
I don't
That's a
even
good.
know.
I know it's in the Bible.
Proverbs
I've heard
3,
it. Yeah. Follow,
maybe?
desire yourself and say it again.
Delight in the Lord, and he'll give you the
of
desires of your heart. And I've just been in this season where, like, do I trust? Like, I'm delighting in the Lord. I mean, it's evident by how much worrying, I'm doing, how much I'm worrying about it. I'm delighting in the Lord. Do I trust, that he has me where he has me, and by his character, he's leading us and guiding us. And,
It's good. It's good. So final thought with that is that, man, do not become anxious as you're serving the Lord. Delight yourself in the Lord. He's going to guide you. And he's going to give you direction, but just get after it, man. Do something with your life, right? And the Lord will shut down doors that are not meant to be open. You'll open doors that are meant to be open.
Bada bing.
Bada bing, bada boom. Well, thank you, Ryan, so much for your time here on Thrive and Dive. I hope you guys found his testimony encouraging. That in and of itself was just so great to hear, especially that conversation about how to deal with shame and things of that nature. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that, Ryan.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. And then we pray for you as you go into your next season, as you're in this preparatory season, but still remaining faithful, recognizing that there's no such thing as a wasted time in the kingdom of God, unless you're not, living out the what the Lord commands. There's no wasted time, right? The Lord is working in and through us. So thank you, Ryan. Thrive and Divers, thank you for watching this episode. Hopefully it encouraged you or challenged you today. Well, this is Thrive and Dive, thriving in life as we dive into deeper conversations. Have a great rest of your day.